I am delighted to be here and delighted to see so many people that are here. I asked Bishop Hudson a little earlier, I said, how many people does the sanctuary hold? And he said, about 1,200. And there are very few empty seats in here tonight. We've had town hall meetings. This is our 6th town hall meeting, Councilmember Barry. And the first night we were in Ward 5 with Councilmember Thomas, and we had about 1,000 people. We then were in Ward 3. We had about 800 people. We then went to Ward 7, which is where I live, and we had another 1,000 people. We then were where? In Ward 2? Ward 2? Ward 2. Where we had, I don't know, about 700-800 people who came out in Ward 2. And we had really 700, 800, 900 people again in Ward 1. But I got to tell you, look over this crowd tonight. I think y'all set the record tonight for the number of people who turned out for these town hall meetings. I want to thank my two colleagues in addition to Councilmember Barry who are here tonight. I want to thank Councilmember Michael Brown and Councilmember Harry Thomas Jr. They haven't missed a town hall meeting yet. Of course, Michael represents the entire city. Tommy represents Ward 5, but they have been all across this city with me, and I want to thank them for being a part of this. One of the things that was important to me, and I think we've been able to achieve this, is that we do this with the council. That, you know, why should I be out here by myself? We're going to work together as a council. We're going to have a mayor and a council working together in the District of Columbia. And I want to thank Councilmember Barry also. He is the 4-time mayor. 3-time council member. Former president of the Board of Education. And done just about everything in the District of Columbia that one could do in order to be able to move this city forward. And I want to thank you publicly, Councilmember Barry, former Mayor Barry, former President of the Board of Education Barry, for doing so much for people in the District of Columbia. How about a big hand for Councilmember Barry? I think we also have here a former council member who served with us, used to represent Ward 5, and that is former council member Vincent Orange. Is he here?
Yes.
Where is he? Oh, okay. There he is. Okay. Delighted to see you here, Vince. We also have here some folks from our school system, okay? I can't give their titles, all right? I can't give their titles, but I'm going to ask them to stand up. I don't think they need their titles for you to recognize who they are. First of all, Kaya Henderson is here tonight. Kaya. Richard Nian Corey. And Peggy O'Brien. And I want to thank them for coming out, because we look forward to working with our public schools at this point to be able to work together with the parents and the community to move the education forward for our kids. And we also have here another former council member, and I wanted to save her for last because this is her home ward. And that is the person who ably represented this ward, Ward 8. I worked closely with her when I was at Covenant House. We did a lot of things together. I even chaired a Human Services Advisory Committee that she wanted to have, and I was delighted to do that, and that is, of course, Sandy Allen. It is my goal. It is my goal. It is my aspiration. It is my desire to see this city come together and work together. It's the only way we are ever going to be as great as we can possibly be. And that is if we find a way to work effectively together. As I go across the city, and I have gone across the city so many times during this campaign, before this campaign, when I ran for chair, and throughout my career, because I am a native Washingtonian. I'm a product of the public schools of the District of Columbia, and I am proud to be a native Washingtonian. And frankly, the issues are really no different from one ward to the next. Education, public safety, economic development, the public trust, balancing budgets. I don't go anywhere where I don't hear those themes echoed. So if everybody is echoing the same themes, why should we have to work in 8 little groups? Why can't we work in one group called the District of Columbia and make this city as great as it can possibly be? I know what a challenge it's going to be one city, but at least we've started talking about it. At least people are wearing a pin now that says one city. At least the conversation has started about it. And we shouldn't let ourselves be stymied by superficial differences. We shouldn't be defined by where we live in the District of Columbia. We shouldn't be defined by economic differences. We shouldn't be defined by social differences. And we shouldn't allow ourselves to be defined by racial differences, because if people can put wedges between us, they will keep us from being everything that we could possibly be in this city. And I, for one, am not going to let that happen. You know, people tried to define me during this campaign. Man, I read stories about myself and I had to go back up to the top to make sure I had the name right. People said I was going to turn the clock back on education. Now, that's ridiculous, all right? I mean, it is absolutely ridiculous. First of all, when the legislation came over for education reform in the city, I was proud to lead it through the council, because I knew we needed to do something different with our children in order to make sure that they had educational outcomes that we could be proud of. We moved it through the council. We had almost a unanimous vote. Councilmember Thomas voted for it. Councilmember Brown would have voted for it if he'd been there with us, but he wasn't there with us at that time. And Councilmember Barry and I enthusiastically voted for it, didn't we, Councilmember Barry? Absolutely enthusiastically voted for it. We stripped away a lot of the impediments that have stopped previous superintendents, previous leaders from being able to get the job done. And frankly, the D.C. Public Schools was like this at one point, and now it's like that. And I mean that in the most positive sense, because we took out all the buildings and grounds issues and put them in a new and separate agency called the Office of the Public Education Facilities Modernization, headed by Alan Liu. And frankly, I think he has done a fantastic job of rebuilding and renovating our schools. We took out all the state functions, because yes, we do function like a state, even though nobody wants to accord us that designation of being a state. And we put them in another agency called the Office of the State Superintendent for Education. And we took out all the legal functions and sent them to the Office of the Attorney General. And we took out all the information technology functions and sent them over to the OCTO, the Office of the Chief Technology Officer. And what we did in the course of this was make our public education, our traditional public education system, a lot more manageable than it had ever been. And frankly, we've had some fiery times. We've had some interesting hearings, haven't we, Mr. Barry? We had one, Mr. Thomas, where we had an 18-hour hearing one night. And we stayed there for the duration. That hearing ended at 4 o'clock in the morning. But nobody has lost sight of what's important in all of this, because there's only one thing that matters, and that is improving the educational outcomes for the children of the District of Columbia. Now, we have focused a lot on D.C. public schools K through 12, but I happen to be one of those, and I'm not alone in this, but I happen to be one of those who believes that we should have a vision for public education that begins at the birth of a child and runs all the way through age 24. And that means we not only focus on the traditional public schools, but we focus on all the other elements as well. And one of those is early childhood education. I was pleased, proud to join with my colleagues to moved legislation through the council that created what then was called a bold, sometimes bold is a nice word for stupid, okay? Crazy. A bold vision that every child who's 3 and 4 years old in the District of Columbia would have a seat in a public education program, fundamentally redefining when public education begins. I've asked a lot of people this question, and that is, why is it that public education supposedly started at 5 years old in the city? And I can't ever get an answer. I don't know the answer. I have no idea. I've heard people try giving an answer. Somebody said it has something to do with a throwback to a farm economy. I don't know what that means, but that's about the only answer I've ever gotten. So why shouldn't kids start school before 5 years of age? Why shouldn't they be exposed to a formal education program? And so we created legislation that said kids will start at 3 years of age. We're going to have a universal pre-K program. And we said we're going to give ourselves some time to get it done. We'll get it done by 2014. 6 years was long enough, wasn't it? Well, you know what? It was so popular. Not just me, but our educators embraced it. The city embraced it. The community-based organizations embraced it. The teachers embraced it. Everybody embraced it. So that it moved so quickly that, in point of fact, by the end of this past September, we had a seat in some kind of publicly operated program. DC Public Schools, charter schools, community-based organizations, for every child who is 3 and 4 years old in the District of Columbia. And to my knowledge, we are the first city in America to be able to say that we have accomplished that. And we ought to be proud of the fact that we've done that. As we get into better times, I want to open the door to universal access to infants and toddlers. Because 3 years old is too late for some kids. Why can't we serve kids who are 6 months old in a formal program if their parents want them to be in that program? And frankly, it not only will benefit those kids, it will help some of our parents become better parents because they will learn how to deal with their kids better than they deal with them now. And so we're going to work on that too as we get into better times. And frankly, for those who want to engage in that argument about charter schools, I think that's a bogus argument at this point. We now have almost 30,000 kids in charter schools in the District of Columbia. Parents are opting to choose charter schools. And rather than fight that, let's make sure that our traditional public schools are great so that parents will choose our public schools, our traditional public schools. For the first time in many, many years, the enrollment in the DC public schools has stabilized, in substantial part because we've got preschool kids coming in now. But let's make it the choice for kids no matter how old they are, so that while we see growth in charter schools, we also see growth in our traditional public schools, and we see growth in public education in the District of Columbia. So we also need to, and I want to work on this, again, as a product of the public schools. There's sometimes when I remember that things were better than what they are today. And one of the ways that they were better then than they are now is because we had robust vocational education programs in our schools in yesteryear. We've gotten Phelps reopened. We put $70 million into Phelps. We've got a few programs at Cardozo, but there was a time when we had 7 vocational schools, right? We had Armstrong, we had Phelps, we had Bell, we had Chamberlain, we had Burdick, we had the Penn Center, and we had MMW. That's right. And I'm not advocating building a whole lot of new vocational schools, but we ought to have an element of career and technical education in every one of our high schools across the city, so that kids who want to go to work after the 12th grade will have a set of marketable skills to take them to that point. We talk about dropout rates. We ought to talk about push-out rates. Because some of the decisions that we have made in the past have literally pushed our kids out who couldn't find themselves. Kids who want to be able to go to work ought to be able to find a way to have those skills by going to our secondary schools, be it a charter school or a traditional public school. And we want to work to restore those as we get into better times. I am proud also, I'm a real advocate. I don't know about you all, but I'm an advocate for the University of the District of Columbia. That is our state university. And we have worked hard. We have a relatively new president of the university, Alan Sessoms. He came from Delaware State. He's a man who has an ambitious agenda. He's a man who has a vision. He is a man who doesn't want to put off until tomorrow to get things done. And I want to work with people like that to move our state university forward in this city. We have a new community college. Did you all know that? New community college. We already have about 2,500 students enrolled in the community college, and we have several campuses. We've got classes being provided on the campus of UDC. We got the back of school renovated. We got 801 North Capitol Street, which has now been established as the headquarters for the community college. And yes, Councilmember Barry and I worked together to turn over P.R. Harris right here in Ward 8 for the community college. They now have control of it. And so I invite you to join me in a one-city vision for public education commitment to our kids from the time they're born until the time that they become 24 years of age. And yes, Dr. Nian Corey heads our special education program, and we're going to work together, right, Dr. Nian Corey, to try to start bringing our kids back home. We got too many kids in private schools, and frankly, it long predates him. And he didn't start this. This long predates him. And that is, last fiscal year, 2009, we spent on putting kids in in private placements who should have been in public education $166 million. Transporting kids in special education, another $90 million. And almost $10 million in legal attorney's fees. That is over $250 million. Our kids deserve to be educated in our public schools in the District of Columbia. They deserve to be right here in the city, not in Texas, not in Arizona, not in Maryland, not in Virginia, not in Florida, and all these other places where we have no idea what's going on in these programs. And I'm going to tell you the truth, as competitive as I am, I refuse to acknowledge that somebody in Florida or Texas or West Virginia can do it better than we can in the District of Columbia. It makes good educational sense, and it makes good social sense. And frankly, as we look at the future of this city, people have asked me, what are we going to do about getting a vote in Congress? Well, frankly, I'm ready to put the vote aside. We've seen that. We need to do more than that. Our Congresswoman has fought hard. She has fought hard to get us a vote. She deserves a vote. She deserves to be able to vote just like the other people in the Congress of the United States. And we were denied that. We thought we were right at the threshold of a vote. And along came a senator from Nevada and a congressman from Mississippi and said, yeah, y'all can have a vote, no problem. No problem at all, Councilmember Barry. Just a couple things. We want to strip away all your gun control laws in the District of Columbia so there'll be no more gun control. It's bad enough with gun control. And then your council, which is our state legislative body, our county legislative body, our city legislative body, they will never again be able to legislate on guns. And frankly, to me, that was a poison pill. It just wasn't worth it to give up that to be able to get a vote. And our Congresswoman agreed with that. She stood up, as much as she wanted to vote, she stood up and fought for the people of the District of Columbia because that was too much to give up. So, in my opinion, if it takes that much to get a vote, Why don't we just fight for statehood to become the 51st state of the nation? And there are going to be days when people say, y'all are crazy. But that's what they told the same people back in the 18th century. Isn't this nation founded on resistance to taxation without representation? And isn't that precisely what we have in the District of Columbia today? Isn't that the hypocrisy that we are asked to endure every day in the District of Columbia, that our founding fathers fought against, and now we have to endure that every day? We have paid our membership dues. Why can't we get a membership card in the United States of America? People have said to me, well, Gray, are you willing to stand up for it? Are you willing to go up on the hill and meet and all that kind of stuff? Sure, I'm willing to go up there and meet. But what good is a meeting with me going to do? I'll get in the office and have a conversation, and they'll be cordial to me. How are you today, Mayor Gray? How's it going in the District of Columbia? Let us know if we can help you out. But you know what? That meeting will end and nothing will happen after that. But I tell you what, if I go up there and look over my shoulder, over my right shoulder, my left shoulder, and I see 2,000 or 3,000 people behind me, I bet you that will be more than a conversation. People have asked me whether I'm willing to be locked up or not. I don't care anything about that. I grew up in one of the toughest neighborhoods in the city, so that wouldn't be new to me, okay? But you want it to be for a purpose. And I'll tell you what, if it's 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 of us, where are they going to put us? We don't have a jail large enough for all those people in the District of Columbia. And who is it that's going to arrest us? Our own police officers? And where are they going to put us? In the D.C. jail? Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to stand up and fight for ourselves. Because Frederick Douglass said it best, power concedes nothing without a struggle, and you're not going to get a thing until you stand up and fight for yourselves.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes. Yes, sir. Yes,
sir. And I promise you, I will be right there with you. I love a good fight. Don't we, Mr. Barry? That's right. We joined forces and got Forest Haven closed. And boy, that was a fight. They thought we were really crazy on that one. Put all those people in the community, y'all must be nuts. But you know what? It worked. And nobody ever would make the argument today that it shouldn't have been done. I found more people in agreement with that who weren't in agreement when we did it. You know how it happens. It's like an election. Like an election, man. When I ran for chair of the council, I got, I think it was 57% of the vote. But in the aftermath, when it was over with, I think I got 98% of the vote. You know what I mean? Well, nobody didn't vote for me. So let's wage the fight, you all. It's not going to happen overnight. It might not even happen during the time that I serve as mayor of the District of Columbia. But you got to move the ball down the field. Some of the best football teams in the National Football League are the ones who can mount a drive, who can get first down, first down, first down, and eventually they get across the goal line. Because they know where they're trying to get to, they have a plan, and they have the tenacity to make it work. And that is not going to happen without the people of this city having the tenacity to stand up and wage the fight. And I promise you, I will be right there with you. I think my colleagues will be right there with me. had to think about it for a second. I know that because we've had this conversation before. And so, as we think about this also, we got to have the tenacity to do what's necessary over here, and that is to start to get people back to work again.
Yes. Yes, sir.
We have a 10.4% unemployment rate in the city. In Ward 7, which is where I live, unemployment is 19%. And here in Ward 8, it is between 30 and 35% at this stage.
Speak to it.
And yes, we've been in a recession, and that accounts for some of what we've experienced. But we got some opportunities coming up. Right up the street, we got Homeland Security that is going to come to Ward 8 on the west side of the St. Elizabeth's campus. There will be, and we're getting ready to get started with that, there will be 14,000 jobs that will be relocated or located to the west side campus. There will be 22,000 construction jobs that will be created as a result of Homeland Security coming to Ward 8, the St. Elizabeth's campus. And frankly, if we sit here and let all of those jobs go to people outside this city, we all ought to be put on a bus and shipped up out of here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm not going to let it happen. I know Mr. Barry is not going to let it happen. I know Mr. Thomas and Mr. Brown are not going to let it happen. But once again, we need you to wage the fight with us to make sure we get the jobs that the people of this city and this ward are entitled to.
Yes, sir.
And we also need to use that as a lever to create the kind of amenities that we want to see in our communities over here. You know, in Ward 7, we just doubled the number of sit-down restaurants from 1 to 2. From 1 to 2, Brenda. we got Denny's, and now we have raised the stakes. The food is good, but you don't want to go to just the same 2 restaurants all the time, Lee, right? So, and we got to do the same thing here in Ward 8. And the opportunity of bringing Homeland Security here is going to create an opportunity to develop Martin Luther King Avenue, Alabama Avenue, Good Hope Road. We've already put a plan together to start this process, and we're going to continue to evolve the plan, but we're going to do it with the community. We're not going to do it without you. We're going to do it with the council member. We're going to do it with my colleagues up here. We're going to do it with the mayor's office, and most of all, our ANC commissioners and the people who live in Ward 8 and Ward 7 of the District of Columbia. Somebody asked me today what I thought was, where were we losing money that we could keep in the city? And frankly, one of the ways that we're losing a lot of money is right over here on this end. The number of people who go to Prince George's County, to go to Montgomery County, and yes, go to Pentagon City to spend their money to shop, because there is no place to shop in Ward 7 or 8. We got to get Skyland finished. We got to get Penn Branch done. We got to do the economic development over here in Ward 8. And frankly, if we get just that done, the next 4 years will have been worth it, because then we really can stand up and say we are one city, because opportunities will be in every one of these wards across the District of Columbia. And I'll tell you something, Ward 8. Coming out like you out tonight, showing out like this, voting like you just did in the primary. Councilmember Barry told you, almost 30% increase over the Ward 8 turnout in 2006.
Yes, sir.
That gets people's attention.
Yes, sir.
That's the stuff that gets people's attention. Nobody can deny that kind of unified power, that kind of unified energy, that kind of collective effort. Because you see, there's a lot of people in the world that feed on cynicism. They feed on keeping you depressed. They feed on keeping you standing around talking about, that is never going to happen, that's not going to work. And you know what? While you're doing all of that and wasting energy, the world is moving on. So let's come together Let's come together and work together. Let's truly make this one city. It's not just a slogan. It's not just, words. It is using the collective power and the energy of the people of this city to move our cause forward. And frankly, that is precisely what I want to do. That's why I ran for office at this stage in life. And when my time is up, I want to feel like I can hand the baton off, because we have moved it around the track and have 600,000 people working effectively together in this city. So I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. I am delighted to be here. You know what? And tonight's attendance will bring us up over 5,000 people who have come out to these town hall meetings over the last 3 weeks. That is a powerful statement. That is a powerful statement. And if they don't write it, then just tweet it, or email it, or blog it. We got a whole new lingo now, don't we? However you get it out there, let's let people know that folk care about what's going on in this city and in Ward 8. So with that having been said, I want to open it up for questions at this stage. Gretchen, where are you? Tell us what the rules are, Gretchen.
I'm right here. Thank you, Chairman Gray. Okay, I'm sure we're not going to be able to get to everybody, but we're going to try our best. In case we don't get to you, we're collecting questionnaires. Please write your questions on here. We're going to be recognizing you when you hold your hands up. There are 3 of us down here, Denise in the orange, Stan is right there, and we have 2 people in the balcony, Derek and Marvin, and we're also going to be coming up to get your questions in the choir loft. Okay, first question.
Yes, my name is Ernestine Copeland, but that's not important. I wonder, when are we going to get down to the real nitty-gritty about honoring the word of Almighty God and allowing people to be fired with no paperwork, disrespected, and refuse to be served the termination papers so they cannot fight, and we come to you and with no results. You won't even listen to us as DC residents. 70% of the people who work in this town do not even live in this town. We have lost out on a viable opportunity to vote for Leo Alexander as mayor, but we did not do that. Why? But we for men who legalize same-sex marriage against our Heavenly Father and against our children. Reverend Hudson.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're going to get locked up, at least better be for a good purpose, okay? Now, I'm going to ask you all to please try to be respectful to each other. Keep your questions as crisp as you can. I'll do the best job I can to try to answer those questions. Are we staying? Are we over here with staying now? Okay, staying.
Okay, everyone, please. What will also help more people get their questions asked is if we make them one short, sweet question, then more people can be heard. Okay? We'll come right back around to you. We'll come back around to you. Denise, do you have a question on your
Who's next?
My mic. Okay, I have my mic.
All right, everybody, hold up so we can hear now. Hold up so we can hear. Hold up so we can hear.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
My name is Michael Marshall, and I just want to know as far as the new jobs that are coming in for Homeland Security, do we have something in place for young men or young people that have felonies? Because a lot of them cannot get those jobs on those military installations because of felony, and they cannot pass background checks. So have we started looking into viable felonies where we can kind of work with them?
I guess the short answer is yes. Have we made a lot of progress? The answer is no. The reality is, I think with those 22,000 construction jobs, again, I'm not absolutely sure, but I think we can probably make more progress quickly on that than on the 14,000 jobs as part of what is a quasi-military installation. We're going to have a challenge with that for sure. That's one of the reasons why I want to start to use that as an opportunity to create a broader economy here in Ward 8, where we won't have to face those kind of obstacles. You know, I meet people almost every day who have a record, virtually every one of whom is looking for a job. I ran into a guy out in Ward 5 one day. He said, Mr. Gray, I just want to talk to you for a minute. He said, you know, I have a record from a number of years ago, and I could not get a job. And he said, I have skills. He said, I went and applied for a job, and I did not tell them about my record. And he said, I was doing a really good job. After several months, they called me in and said, we have done the background check on you and found out you have a record. You are fired, sir. Now that is unconscionable. His record of service and employment at that point should have been sufficient to negate anything from the past. You know, there's certain jobs where obviously, nobody wants a pedophile working with our children. We understand that. But there's so many other jobs that people need to be people are qualified for and should be given the opportunity. And we wonder why we have recidivism. You know, when people can't get a job, we actually push people back to doing things that they otherwise would not do. So we've got some distance to travel, and I want to work with you. I want to work with the community on that, because we have about 2,500 people who are returning from incarceration every year in the District of Columbia, and unless we find a way to get them to work, you know, we're going to have a huge part of our population and our economy that is grossly underused and underserved. Well, you know what? Let me come back to you, because there's so many hands up in here. I don't want to take up all the time, okay?
Okay, Chairman Gray, we have a question over here.
I have the mic. My name is Phil Palmer. I'm a proud Ward 8 resident, and I just need to ask you.
Is the microphone on? Okay. For those of you that didn't hear, her request was that the DC Housing Authority be thoroughly looked at, I guess, during the transition. The Housing Authority is an independent agency, but the mayor is involved in appointing the board of directors, and we certainly want to start by looking at the board of directors, and we want to look at those operations. There's no way, even as an independent agency, that a mayor can step away from that and say, well, you know, we don't have anything to do with that. That is simply not the case, because they play such an important role in housing people in the District of Columbia, and should be playing an important role also in our New Communities initiative in the city as well. So I promise you that we will take that look. And yes, affordable housing is hugely difficult, hugely difficult. We have a 26,000 person waiting list in the city for affordable housing. We've had people on that list for 8 to 10 years.
Okay, Chairman Gray, we have a question from the balcony up here on your left.
Okay. Is there a mic up there? Great, okay. Is the mic on? Turn it on.
It's on.
There you go.
My name is Can you hear me, sir?
pull it back from your mouth some.
But not-
Pull it back, 'cause if you get it too close, it'll cut itself off.
I want to know if there's any possibility. Conflict resolution, job training, career development, etc.
I think the answer is yes to that. And one of the things that I want to do is, we have a lot of youth groups in the District of Columbia. And I want to make sure that all of those organizations have a chance to work with our young people. We have ROOT, we have the Alliance for Concerned Men, we have a lot of youth organizations, and we ought to be working with them to try to extend themselves. And we have a great roving leader program also, which has been around for years and is often underused. So I would like to work through those groups to be able to do the kind of thing that you're talking about. Having worked with Covenant House, I also know what I know what kinds of services can be provided and the effectiveness of those services. So again, the short answer is yes, we ought to be able to do that. But let's have a lot of groups that are out there working, because I think they'll learn from each other, and I think it will create competition for how well organizations do in serving our young people.
Okay, our next question is to your right, up in the balcony.
Go ahead, I'll repeat the question so people can hear. Well, first of all, if you go back and look at the legislation, which I would invite you to do, it anticipates that there would be equality in the three sectors. There would be equality between the DC public schools, the charter schools, and community-based organizations. So it's not for a failed legislative effort. It's a question of implementation at this stage. I was the one who was involved in doing that legislation from the outset, and I promise you we'll take a look at that, because there's supposed to be facility grants also that are given to community organizations to improve the condition of their facilities. We put money in the budget in order to do that. And secondly, we have something called higher education incentive grants as well. They are designed to go to people to improve their skills. In fact, one of the frustrations for me was we gave the responsibility initially to the Office of the State Superintendent for Education to do that. 18 months after we did it, nothing had happened. So we passed legislation, frankly, because I got tired of sitting there waiting. We passed legislation and gave the responsibility to the University of the District of Columbia. It took the university, it took UDC exactly 45 days to do what the Office of the State Superintendent hadn't gotten done in 18 months. So I promise you we will take a look at that, because it was anticipated that there would be equal treatment for all three sectors.
Okay, our next question. Chairman Gray is right here.
Chairman Gray, I'm Dr. Ronald Anderson, an ophthalmologist here in Southeast. It's interesting that they had the individual stand who'd been in the military, because it was in the 70s that I lived in Southeast, actually from the time I was in medical school all through. And I became the eye surgeon for the Pentagon, and I had to travel through Southeast to get to the Pentagon. And it was very interesting that there were no medical facilities. And this is something we haven't talked about tonight. no medical facilities in this area. And so a couple of us started a free eye clinic on Wheeler Road. Then in 1976, a group of us, about 10 individuals from Howard University, started services down at the, which was once Curtis Brothers. Now it's, I don't know what they call it now. But
at the professional building?
Yeah. But they changed it from professional building to something else because the question is this. The way that you're going to get physicians into this area, and I was at a meeting at the hospital center last night, has to do with how doctors can come into this area and survive. The reason why doctors aren't in this area, because they're being sued out of the area. We have to figure out a way that doctors can come here, as I have for 37 years, and stay here because they know they're going to be treated fairly. We need to work on tort reform, do it in a way that everybody can be happy with it. That's my question. And
well, I think if you've been practicing medicine for 37 years, you know how difficult tort reform is. Tort reform is something that medical practitioners will hardly support, and it's something that the legal profession will hardly resist. Now, let me tell you something that we did. I did legislation along with David Catania, and frankly, it hasn't been publicized widely enough. Hold your hands down, folks. We'll get right back to you. The legislation said that for physicians who will practice in underserved areas, and I think we would agree that every area of Ward 7 and Ward 8 is underserved. We have about 750 primary care physicians in the entirety of the District of Columbia. There are about 35 who actually practice medicine in Wards 7 and 8 east of the river for 140,000 people. The legislation that we did, and it really has not been effectively utilized, is we said that recognizing, this is probably more oriented towards the younger physicians at this stage. I acknowledge that, but you can't solve, every problem with one fell swoop. It said that for those physicians who will work in underserved areas, that we will help them pay off their education loans as healthcare practitioners. Now, for a physician, for a period of 4 years, on an escalating basis from 18 to 28% to 100%, we will pay off up to $120,000 of that physician's loan as long as they will work in an area that's underserved. For nurses, it's $66,000, and it's amounts for other healthcare practitioners. The premise underlying that is that people who work in healthcare fields are basically mission-driven, but they can't pursue that mission when they have huge amounts of debt that they have to pay off, so they have to go where the money is. We've got to figure out a better way of getting the word out that opportunities are available to people. Now, you got to have somewhere to work, and I think you put your finger on that too, if you're going to work in these areas. We put $100 million into the United Medical Center at this stage. But let's be honest with ourselves. A hospital is not a healthcare system. A hospital is a part of a healthcare system. We now have a commitment to build 3 new clinics here. We just were groundbreaking. Where is it, Marion? So one of the things we have to do, and I think we're starting to make some strides now, and that is to build a healthcare system that will attract healthcare practitioners who have an incentive to work in areas like Ward 7 and 8. And I think we can then start to build a healthcare system. As Councilmember Barry often talks about, we have the highest level of health disparities in the entire city over here. You take your choice. Diabetes, heart condition, cancer, asthma, any condition you want to cite, you will find it the highest in Ward 7 and 8. And we have this kind of inverse relationship in terms of healthcare conditions and the extent to which there are healthcare services and healthcare practitioners. No, I know what you're saying about the malpractice, and I tend to be incredibly candid, probably to a fault. And I'm not going to stand here and suggest that tort reform is going to happen anytime soon. We're going to work around that because it's just not going to happen. I don't think the support is there for it. Yeah, okay.
Okay, our next question,
Which side are we on?
we're at Stan, to your left.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Mayor Vincent Gray. My name is Paul Trent. I'm from Ward 8, and I would like to ask you a question on one of your promises once you become mayor. Will you reinstitute the faith-based community, the position that they had in the administration at one time? Mayor Fenty cut that out. Will you reinstitute that position from the faith-based community?
Unequivocally, yes. I've already made a commitment to do that. Where's Bernadette? Where is she? There she is. She's Bernadette Tolson, who lives right in Ward 8, has been the person who has been working on our faith-based relationships. We have made a commitment to establish that position. We're going to have a real and viable interfaith committee. Pastor Bennett has been working with us on that as well. We've been doing a lot of work on it. We're getting ready to have yet another meeting. We had a meeting with, and we want to make it ecumenical. We had a meeting with a group of rabbis on Monday, and we're going to reach into every religious denomination that there is, have a viable interfaith committee, a position in the mayor's office that will work on that. And we're going to restore something else too that I always thought was terrific, and that is an annual breakfast in the District of Columbia to focus on the needs of the city.
Mayor Gray, I just asked you, I attend Allen M.E. Chapel Church, and my pastor is Michael E. Bell Sr., and remember him in your committee.
Well, you may not know that I happen to know Pastor Bell. He'll tell you that I not only have been to services there, but I even went up and met with him in a one-on-one a few weeks ago. And I was there for services about 2 months ago, so it's right around the corner from where I live also.
Okay, this gentleman had a specific question since we were on health care.
Yeah.
How are you, Brad?
Good, Vince. How you doing? Hey, if I want to back off the doctor's question, I want to know what your plans are for Old Greater Southeast, which is down United Medical Center. What plans do you have, since I understand the city is pretty much in financial control of organization now?
Yeah, we've got a lot invested in that, so I think it hopefully apparent that we want to keep it open. The city has now put $100 million into United Medical Center. You know, it looks better. It's starting to turn around financially. We got to continue to improve the services there. The hospital is not a substitute. Let me say it again. A hospital is not a substitute for a health system. Hospitals have been inappropriately used because people to the emergency room like it's their primary care physician. That's why we've got to have a care system with primary care physicians and, you know, secondary and tertiary services being provided to people throughout the community. So again, we've got a commitment to keep the hospital open, but the larger commitment has to be to build other services so that people have options. One of the things that I think we ought to be proud of, Brad, is that we have the Healthcare Alliance in the city. We have 55,000 people who are covered by health care insurance that otherwise wouldn't be covered. We now are second only to Massachusetts in the extent to which we cover adults in the District of Columbia. Only 6.2% of our adults who don't have health care coverage. And what is not known to a lot of people, we are best in the nation in terms of covering children. There's only 3.2% of our children who don't have health care insurance at this stage. But we got to people not only to have health care insurance, they got to have good health care behavior along.
Yes. Okay, Denise. Folks, we're going around to each section. We can only take one from each section at a time. Okay? I know everybody wants to get their questions in, but let's make them short and sweet. We're trying.
Go ahead.
Over.
Go ahead.
Good evening, Chairman Gray. My name is Deborah Johnson. I'm an educator, and I've lived in Ward 8 a very, very long time. My question is, there's so many people who are out of work, employed, and need workforce development or some kind of job training. And are you going to, or is the government going to put the job training dollars in the Department of Employment Services, or is the money going to be spread out through different agencies, and how will faith-based organizations or community-based organizations be able to access those dollars to make available for those persons they serve?
You know, Mr. Barry and I worked together and put $4.6 million, right, into the DOES budget last year for adult job training. And the current administration didn't spend $1 of that money despite the unemployment level that we have. So I think we've already got a track record for having done that. We want to continue to do that. It has to be a three-pronged attack. First of all, DOES has to recognize that its principal responsibility is adult job training in the District of Columbia. Secondly, we need to use our community college for that purpose. And thirdly, our schools, and this is more of a mid-range and longer-range goal, but having our schools turning out more kids who can go to work at the end of the 12th grade if they would choose to do that. That is the goal. So we got a lot of work to do in DOES. It's an agency that is desperately in need of reform, in my opinion. Frankly, and I've said this several times, DOES should be known for training people, not the place you go to apply for unemployment.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we have a question to your right, Chairman Gray, from the balcony.
How you doing? What's your question? Well, make sure. I want people who work for me to reflect my values. And my values include, first and foremost, a level playing field. And frankly, if we find somebody, and that happens at times, if we find somebody who is pushing their own agenda that is inconsistent with my values and my agenda, they'll be looking for a job. They will be down at DOES applying for unemployment.
Right.
So, you know, I hear this frequently. I don't know the specific details or the specific situation, but I will not put up with people who don't treat people fairly. That's how the government winds up getting sued and how you wind up with a bad reputation for how you administer programs and services and resources responsibilities.
Okay, the next question is from the balcony on the left, and Talkin will repeat the question. Talk slowly, we'll repeat the question for you. She's a homeowner in Ward 8. You moved here 4 years ago.
I don't know. Did you all hear the question? Yeah. I don't know that that reflects the attitude of every police officer in the 6th and 7th district. They're probably, wait a minute, I can't talk over two of you. I'm sure that there are people who have attitudes like that, but it starts with the commander. Frankly, the commanders that I work with over here, Commander Maupin and Commander Conti in the 6th district, I have found them actually pretty good to work with. And if there are specific situations that you are aware of where that attitude has been demonstrated, I would like to be able to deal with it. One of the things that I want to do, and I didn't even address this in my opening comments, and that is we have only 19% of our police officers who actually live in the District of Columbia. And it would be great if we could increase the numbers, because I think when people live in the jurisdiction that they serve, it just creates a different kind of involvement. And that's not a criticism of the people, it's just to say, and why can't we begin to expose young people in our secondary schools to the opportunities as a first responder? We only have 12-15% of our firefighters who live in the District of Columbia. 19% of our police officers, why can't we begin to expose them to those opportunities as 11th and 12th graders that would then lead them to move, go into the academy? And clearly, by definition, the people in our high schools live in the District of Columbia. The other thing is that, and this is something that is among many things I want to do, but creating workforce housing would provide incentives for our first responders and our teachers to live in the District of Columbia. It'll pay for itself because the tax dollars then will stay in the city rather than going out to Maryland and Virginia and West Virginia and Texas and Timbuktu, because we cannot tax income at its source. So if they live in the city, at least we'll be able to get the dollars back to our coffers, taxing the income of the people who work.
Good evening. Good evening, Chairman Gray. My name is Lanita.
All right.
And I'm an early childhood educator from a nationally accredited child care community-based center here in Ward 8. I'm representing children, the families, and the providers, and I'm representing Empower DC tonight. My question, community-based providers in Ward 8 and throughout the city are closing and struggling to remain open because the DC government has not adjusted our reimbursement rates since 2004, although the federal requirement mandates that it's adjusted every 2 years. And this is leaving child care professionals jobless, and parents are having to leave their jobs. Thousands of children throughout the city are left without high-quality early childhood education and quality care. Will you commit to increasing the reimbursement rates paid to child care providers throughout the city in your first 180 days in office? And as you heard earlier, early childhood education is a priority in this ward and throughout the city.
Well, first of all, I don't think anybody has been more committed to early childhood education than I have. So let me start with that. And no, I will not make that commitment at this stage, because I know the budget challenges that we are facing. We have a $400 million problem that we are facing. I did the legislation that created the current commitment to early childhood education. I understand the challenges associated with that, and there are cases that could be made in a lot of other areas at this stage. What I think we've got to do, we've got to be able to set the priorities and make sure we keep as many of our vital services going as much as we possibly can. There will be no new money in the city. If I increase it over here, I'm going to have to take it from somewhere else. And the question is, where do we take it from? I don't know the answer to that. So excuse me. I mean, it would be great, it would be politically correct to stand up and say, yep, I'll do that. I'm not going to make that commitment because I can't deliver on that at this stage. You will find in dealing with me, I will be incredibly candid with you. You can take to the bank what I tell you, because I won't tell you an untruth. And it would be an untruth to stand up here tonight and say, yes, I will increase those rates, because in order to increase your rates, I'm going to have to take it from somebody over here at this stage, and I just can't commit to do that at this point. Where are we, Gretchen? Okay. Mic's not working? Here you go.
Good evening, Mr. Gray. My name is Asantwa Nkrumah Toure, and I'm a longtime community organizer. I'm really hoping that you will show the kind of leadership to bring the city together, particularly as pertains to our young people in our schools. Number one, real quickly, I heard your comment to the young man Tuesday night who asked you about harassment and threats to gay and lesbian young people. And I was concerned about that because a young person cannot stand up to a bully if their parents have put them out, if their churches put them out, and their principals and teachers at their school ignores the harassment and the bullying. So they need something else to help them. So I'm hoping you would agree to a plan to educate people in our school system about harassment and bullying, especially that toward gay and lesbian young people, because I don't want our young people to die. Lastly, regarding public money for public schools, I'm hoping that you will make a commitment to support public money for public schools, support our teachers and our teachers' unions, at our city employees and their unions, so none of them can face the possibility of being fired without due process. Thank you.
The first issue was bullying, right? Just so you know, that issue was raised in Ward 1 on Tuesday night. I put out a press release the very next day. Where Doxy or Tracy? Where's Tracy? Okay, I was going to see if we had a copy. Council members Thomas and Michael Brown have introduced legislation addressing bullying, and I indicated that I'm going to work with them immediately to hold a hearing on that bill, which involves a plan. So we're going to move forward with that and try to get that as quickly as we possibly can. It might even involve after the hearing, because I want to hear from people on this issue. I want to hear from the public. It might even involve doing emergency legislation so we can figure out what steps we need to take. You know, and the reality is that bullying has been with us for a long time. And I'm going to be honest with you, I found the best way to deal with a bully is to do this. Yeah. I understand. I understand. That isn't only the only solution. Now, I have supported appropriation for public education, and I'm assuming when you say public education, including our traditional DC public schools and charter schools, because charter schools are public schools just like any other schools. I have not, to be candid with you, I have been very clear that I do not support vouchers, and that is giving public dollars to private schools to educate our kids. We have to do it in special education because there are no options, but I have not supported vouchers as an option beyond, other than outside of special education. I've not supported vouchers going to private schools to educate our kids.
Hello. Yes, sir. My name is Andre Keith. I'm a business owner and a landlord in the District of Columbia. And I have a question regarding the mayor's homeless program that was started by Mayor Fenty 2 years ago that has Community Connections as the case management group. This program was supposed to focus very heavily on case management to take care of the homeless as they transition into housing. Community Connections has miserably failed the homeless community in this case management program. And I want to know whether the mayor's office will look into Community Connections activities with this program and do something about finding the right kind of agency to handle what we need to do for the homeless in this situation.
Is there contract with the community partnership? Because the community partnership is contracted by the city to coordinate all the homeless services in the city.
Are connected with community partnerships.
Okay. You know, Marshall is the person who runs that organization. I think what we'll try to do is get her assessment of whether there are problems with the execution. I'm sure Community Connections is not the only organization that we have doing that work, because that wouldn't, there's no way that one organization could do all of that by itself. I say that as somebody who has a human services background, as someone who worked, you know, at DHS, worked at Covenant House, which is an organization that serves homeless youth. We didn't take any public money, so we were not part of that system, but we worked with that system. Based on what you've said tonight, I'll be happy to have, we'll look into it and see what the problems are.
Hello. Vincent Gray. Over here.
Okay. It's hard to know, man. The voice is just coming at me. I don't know where it's coming from. How you doing, Mr. Rosario?
I'm doing great. My name is Miguel Rosario. I'm a resident of Ward 8. I'm for education. Right now I have in my hand a Bill of Rights, which is called the Family Engagement Act on Education 2010, which was presented by the National PTA. We are sponsored for local DC PTA. I'm a member, and we are like giving this to you because you say you want a city of one. You want families to be engaged in the child's education. We would like for you to introduce this when you get elected as mayor, which I'm going to vote for you,
to the city council for us to have a hearing on what does it mean to be parental involvement.
Okay. It's a thick document, isn't it? Actually, this is federal legislation. Has this already been introduced into Congress? By who? Yeah. Okay, well, let us... Yeah, well, we'll let us do the research first of all on where it is in the Congress, okay? I'll ask my staff to do that. All right, thank you. In the balcony?
Yes, good evening, Chairman Gray.
How
Judy
you doing?
Culberson, Ward 8 resident. I want to bounce back onto the housing, affordable housing issue for one moment. With all of the new construction and all of the townhouse developments and all of the homes, I guess it's supply and demand, so the rent control is out of control. Is there a rent control law in the District of Columbia that's in effect?
The rent control law is actually about to be reauthorized. It has been authorized in 5-year blocks originally. The council is looking at either extending it to 10 years or doing permanent rent control legislation if we can do that. There are some constitutional challenges, but if we can get past the potential legal constitutional challenges to that, I think that there is a sentiment within the council to have permanent rent control. The issue is, and you put your finger on it, the issue is that we have had as many as 100,000 units under rent control in the city because buildings that were built before, I think 1976 or 77 or something like that, were covered. We have been losing. We lost about 10,000 units under rent control in the last 5 years. So we've got to be able to protect what's already under rent control. Now, one of the things that is good is that we have some new tools. We have something called inclusionary zoning in the district that says to people, if you want to build a new building, we'll make a deal with you. That you create X amount of affordable units in there, and we will let you build more units than the zoning laws would allow you to do otherwise. We got new communities projects. We got Sheridan that's being rebuilt right down the street that is required to have a number of affordable units in it. And one of the things I like about new communities is that when it replaces public housing, everybody who lived in that public housing has a right to be able to live, if they choose to, in the new developments that are being developed. So, you know, I don't want to suggest either that we're winning the battle with affordable housing, because we are not. We are developing new opportunities as quickly as we can to be able to preserve what we have. Our market forces that work that go beyond anything that the government can do. But we probably have the most aggressive affordable housing effort in this city of anywhere in the nation.
How you doing, Vincent Gray? Right here.
Okay. Here, you want to use my microphone?
Good evening. My name is Ms. Parker. I'm the president of the council from Willow Creek. I'm a senior citizen. I'll be 72 tomorrow. I'm very proud of our community because I know how it was before I moved there, but I was born and raised here in the District of Columbia. I know about Northeast, Northwest, Southeast, Southwest. We as seniors want a better community concerning the drugs and the killing. It needs to stop. It's too much drugs, it's too much killing with the young people. We need more support for the senior citizens. We need more housing for senior citizens. We need more education and health for the senior citizens. And we had these young people here getting all this stuff. That's fine. But the senior citizens are getting nothing. And it's not fair to us because we done worked all our life and retire, we're not getting anything. $10 a month. What is $10 a month? $16 a month. It's not fair to the seniors. And we done work hard for it. And we are grandmothers, great-grandmothers, and we help them to take care of our children, our grandchildren, great-grandchildren. You need to do a little more for the seniors, citizens, even in the schools. Now, I'm a foster grandparent, and I work in the schools. Now, I want to know what you're going to do to help the seniors.
Well, I think this city has a long track record, going back to the days when Mr. Barry was the mayor, of having an aggressive program on behalf of seniors. One of the things I support is what's called aging in place programs, because again, you get back to the housing question. We now have 6 chapters in the city of aging in place programs, and what they do basically is to try to keep seniors where they are so they don't have to move out of their homes. And in some instances, it may mean that there are 2 or 3 other seniors who want to live together. And frankly, the cost of housing are cheaper when the city supports that. The cost of care generally are cheaper when the city does that. So I want to try to work with the Office of Aging Services to make sure we keep in place what we have. You know, we got some pretty good services in place at this stage. We've done a pretty good job, I think, over time of making sure that meals get out to seniors. Some of the activities that have been available have been reduced. We want to get back to being able to do that as we get more money coming to the city. I agree with you that the seniors have paved the way for a lot of people in this city, and we are a society, the worst society in my opinion, in terms of the respect that we demonstrate for people who are aging and people who are seniors. So I would say not only do you have my commitment, it's a matter of continuing my commitment to people who are moving on in age. Where? Up there?
Right here.
Where do we go?
Right here.
Okay, well, just somebody start speaking.
Good afternoon. Ray. My name is Tawana Wood, and I live in Ward 8. I want to kind of keep it brief, but I know that a lot of people that are here are not what I'm talking about. Ward 8 and 7 have a large amount of people who are on fixed incomes and are under Section 8 MARD. I've heard that there's a rumor going around that they're going to stop Section 8 eventually, and they're moving people out. I ride around a lot every day, and I've seen a lot of places that they're putting up townhouses, things like that. I want to know if the rumor is true that you guys are, that the government or whoever is going to push that away, and what are we going to do for people with fixed incomes, that these new buildings and new houses that you guys are putting up that's supposed to be affordable cannot be affordable by people with fixed incomes. So what do you do from there? Or what are you going to do for people like that?
Well, first of all, I hadn't heard anything about Section 8 being ended. Section 8, of course, a federal program. It's not a D.C. program. And what it does, it basically says that we'll give you a voucher so that you don't have to pay more than 30% of your income for whatever the housing is, and the federal government pays the difference. You know, in the I can't imagine that the Obama administration would cut out Section 8. That's just beyond belief to me. So we'll check it out to be sure. I absolutely hope it's not true, because so many of the people who supported the president are the very people who would be adversely affected by something like that. We'll check it out, but I hadn't heard that. That's a program that's administered by the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development. And again, with respect to affordable housing, I don't want to give the same answers that I gave before, so it's pretty much the same, and that is a lot of different tools. We've got rent control, we've got the Housing Production Trust Fund, which we The money has gone down going into that fund. We had about $60 million going into it in better times. Now down to about $17 million because the housing transactions in the city have been reduced by so much. But all the money that goes into that then goes into making loans and grants to organizations to build affordable housing in the District of Columbia. One of the things that we have started doing is as developers come along and they want concessions from the city like closing an alley or whatever in order to be able to do housing, we've started negotiating with them to say, in order to get that, we want you to put $400,000 or $500,000, $1 million into affordable housing funds in the District of Columbia, which is another way to get money available to help subsidize housing in the city. Do I think it is entirely adequate? No. It's a formidable battle that we're fighting, but we're continuing every day to try to find tools and new ways of investing money in affordable housing.
Okay, right here.
How much more time we got?
2 more questions. That's
2 questions? 2 questions?
Yeah,
Okay.
My name is Ronald Anderson.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Councilmember Gray, this is Linda Miller, Bird Farm Resident Council, and also Chair of New Communities. Question I would like to ask is on Bird Farms. Bird Farms, as you know, is our new community historical site, which is getting ready to be torn down in the coming years. The residents are asking, will we be able to come back, and will it be affordable housing, and also, will it still be recognized as a historical site?
Well, there's actually 3 questions in it. The new communities, and by the way, Mr. Barry and I, when we first got on the council, he worked on getting Barry Farm and Parkchester into the new communities program. I worked on Lincoln Heights and Richardson. A feature of new communities is that everybody who lives in any development that is to be replaced is guaranteed an opportunity to come back.
Will that be in writing?
Yes, it's in writing. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. In fact, if you go up to Sursum Quarter was the first one on the list. That's out on North Capitol Street. Yeah. If you ask the residents in Sursum Quarter, they will tell you that they have in writing a commitment that they can come back. The way it works is that let's say you start with 500 units of housing. When you finish a new communities project, you may have 1,500 units of housing. That includes the 500 units that were there before, but then you have moderate and market rate income. That's how you create the mixed income community that will be created, but it includes everybody who then previously lived, let's say in Barry Farm or Sursum Quarter or Lincoln Heights or Richardson or whatever the case may be. And that is in writing, Linda.
Okay, our last
Love you,
question.
Vincent and Marienburg. Thank you.
All right.
Our last question is from this young man.
Mr. Gray, right here, Ronald Anderson.
Sir.
My name is Ronald Anderson.
Okay, hold up, everybody. Listen up.
This young man has said
Go right ahead, sir.
My name is Ronald Anderson. I'm an ex-offender. I just come home from doing 21 years in prison. And I went to a job fair Tuesday, and about 30 tables in there that was representing different positions and jobs. I came up and asked the man, how can y'all help me and get a job? When I told them I'm an ex-offender, they came straight out and told me that we don't hire ex-offenders. What do y'all have in place for people that's getting ready to come home from prison, people like myself and others is on the way home, as far as job concerned? How y'all plan on doing it?
You know, your question is very similar to the one that was asked over there. And that was, we have 2,500 people roughly a year coming back from incarceration back to the community. Yeah. And frankly, you're absolutely right. There are a lot of employers who will not hire people who have a record in the District of Columbia. And there's legislation before the council now called Ban the Box. And that is banning the requirement that people would have to say, under certain circumstances, that they have a record. But even more so than that, we've got to be able to use, opportunities like what's happening with the construction jobs at Homeland Security and the related jobs, what's going on at Walter Reed, which is going to create a lot of jobs in the District of Columbia, and working with CSOSA. I thought we had somebody from CSOSA in here earlier tonight. I don't know whether that person is still here or not, but working with them try to be able to open the doors, because all we're doing is driving people back to criminal activity when we don't do that. So we have now, and I think it was Mr. Barry's legislation that created the Office of Ex-Offender Affairs. We only have about 4 people who work in there. We've got to add more people to that so that there is a support system in the city to help get people back to work once again. It's a difficult problem. You put your finger on it. I fully understand it. All right.
Especially ex-offenders. I've been working in human resources. Forgive me for not wearing my suit, Ward 8. Maybe that's why I'm not recognized. But at the same time, for gentlemen like this...
He doesn't have a suit on either.
But there's services that I'm sorry, sir, no disrespect, and I do appreciate everything that you've done. I appreciate every council member and everything. But the nonprofits not getting funded that provide job training are not getting funded to help gentlemen like him. Help gentlemen or young ladies, or for those who are 18 or 19 that don't know what path in life they want to go. So here they are. By me being an HR recruiter, I get someone who's 25 years old who has jumped about 6 or 7 jobs, and I can't provide them a job because there has been no pattern of training from the time this person has been 16.
Okay, I don't want to cut you short.
Sir.
The takeaway is you're going to help this gentleman get a job. Fantastic.
Okay.
All right.
Chairman Gray, this is our last.
That is a constructive note. Isn't that an uplifting note to end the night on?
It is.
All right.
It is.
I'm going to give it back to Mr.